Say yes. So the church is always, sanctified church, has always had to stand for treating people right. Being sure you get what you earn. Being sure that discrimination is not the order that goes unchecked. To be sure that when babies are being murdered before they're born, somebody has to say there's a better way. To be sure that domestic violence is never condoned. Y'all can hear me. That even if it's legal to take dope and drugs, we're the ones that have to say God has something that will cause you not to be drunk with wine as they suppose. If you don't understand whether a man should be enchanted by a man or a woman, somebody has to say God has designed the man and woman, and not man and man, and woman to be romantically involved. Can y'all hear me? Somebody, the church has to be the one on the front line that says our schools have to be the best schools they can be. Yes, sir. Our streets ought to be the safest. Yes. Church ought to be the place that ought to say that we're not going to sit idly by when the devil is taking over our cities. If we've got to talk to the policeman, if we've got to talk to the judge, if we've got to talk to the mayor, if we have to talk to the governor, if we have to talk to the senator, if we have to talk to the White House. Bishop Mason said, if nobody else will go to the White House. Back in the 1910s, he said, I'm going to D.C. Charles Harrison Mason was the first minister to walk into the office of President McKinley and say, you're sending out boys over there to die in World War I. You ought to stop this lynching that is at an all-time high in the southern states of America. Say yes. We can't say what they're going to do, but somebody has to say, righteousness exalts a nation. Sin is a reproach to any people. God can put your family back together. God can heal from divorce. God can take a family that is in shadows and make it whole again. Got to tell them that husbands got to be better husbands. Wives ought to be better wives. Children ought to be better children. But there's some things more important than that. Kind of summed up in the words of that old song. I once was lost in sin and Jesus took me in, and then a light from heaven filled my soul with love, wrote my name above, but I had a little talk with Jesus and that made it right. You're not going to be able to do anything for somebody else if you can't do something for yourself. Can't cast the devil out of that man if you can't cast the devil out of your own life. Cast the devil out of that child. You know what I mean? So I said, I will have a little talk with Jesus. I wish I could have some fire up here. And tell him all about our struggles. He'll hear our faintest cry and answer by and by. When you feel a little prayer wheel turning, then you'll know that fire is burning. And you'll find a little talk with Jesus. Makes it right. You got to start with your own relationship with God. You got to start with your own person. We're going to do communion tonight, but the communion we do together will be a waste of time if you don't already have communication with the one the communion is all about. I come to the garden alone while the dew is still on the roses, and the voice I hear falling on my ear, the Son of God disposes. That's what I got to start with. And he walks with me. These men up here represent the gospel mission, and ministry. But what good is it for us to have on our robes and have on our black suits and have on our servant attire if we don't walk with him? He's not talking with me. Choir, I love them singing on the first Sunday. And they sang today, didn't they? And I like them singing on the second, the third, and the fourth. But what good is a choir singing to you if they've not first have a living song to him? Need him to tell me that I'm his own and the joy that we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. Say yes. Paul said, what is most important to me is the message of the cross. Somebody say the cross. Some think that the original form was a T with a horizontal beam that is over a centrally placed vertical beam. Some think that the cross in its original form was really in the form of an X. And that when it was used, it was more excruciating because it caused the body cavities to be spread in 4 directions. Some say the cross was really one spike of wood, and they actually tied the hands of the victim after they stretched them as far as they could. So we're not really sure the exact design of the cross. But what we know is that in the Roman world, it was specifically designed to be the most disgusting, most obscene, and the most painful form of death. A lot of ways that you could die back then, but in that empire, the most excruciating way to die, the most painful, the most prolonged, the most embarrassing. It's bad to be embarrassed, but it's real bad to be embarrassed while you're dying. Strip your clothes off of you. He was essentially naked. His body was spread from one end to the other. His bones were all disjointed. His position caused him to nearly suffocate in his own blood. There were spikes in his hands. They were not just little thumbtacks, but spikes. I have a replica of one, about 4 inches long, hammered into his feet. They would not let him die. They extended it by bending the knees and carrying the hands just a little higher than the level of the heart so that the death would be long and prolonged. The birds would fly around like buzzards and peck from the carcass, especially in the eyes and the nose, so that while the person was on that cross, they would never have a moment of peace or ease. Say yes. In fact, crucifixion back then was so severe that in the Greek language, they just used that word, crucifixion. And even beyond that, more frequently, the cross. Somebody say the cross. Because what they did when they put a man on the cross was undescribable. They could not even tell their own family members how gruesome it was. They did not even go into the details. And that's why when you read the Bible, there's very little that is told, except they beat him. I mean, they beat him. Beat him with stripes of a slave. And then they nailed his hands. Then they spat on him. As if it wasn't bad enough, they took the spit from their face and lathered his face with it. Then they put a crown of thorns on his head. Say yes. And the blood was coming from his head, and the blood was coming from his scalp, and the blood was coming from his hands. The nails were not really in the center of the hand, but the hand was considered up to the mid-forearm. If they put the nail in his hand, the weight of his hand would have pulled it down from the spine. So they put it in the corporal bones and put it between the bones and the wrist, so the pain would be endured and prolonged. And they nailed him to the cross. Not only, I'm about to get happy now, but I'm almost getting happier. Put him on the cross. Put him on the cross. Wouldn't let him down. 6 hours he's up there. And from noon to 3, then it turned from just the physical cross to the spiritual cross. He already had the physical pain for you and for me. He already had the physical misery for you and for me. He already had the emotional disgrace He already had naked ears, cold and shivering, and gawkers and persons that were curiosity seekers observing this spectacle. Foul of the air flying around, the shame that was there. But Hebrews said, for the joy that was set before him, he endured. Jesus endured the cross. That's about Hebrews 13 and 8. He endured. Somebody say he endured the cross. And then the book said he despised the shame. The shame was not pleasant. The shame was not becoming. The shame was not normal. The shame was not human. The shame was not humane. The shame was not familiar. You think you've been embarrassed. You think your heart has been broken. You think your feelings have been offended. You think your scruples have been insulted. You think you've had tears on your face. You think your heart has been damaged, but it was on the cross where there was no pain like that pain. There's no pain like the pain of the cross. Yes, there's no agony like the agony of the cross. Yes, there's no embarrassment like the embarrassment of the cross. And there's no death like the death of the cross. And Paul said that's the reason why I tell the brothers, y'all go on and baptize because we got to have it done. But I can't spend my time baptizing because I got to tell you what you're being baptized for. For as many as us have been baptized, Romans 6 said we've been baptized unto his death. And as we've been baptized, yes, unto his death, we've been raised to the newness of life. Say yes. Paul said, cross. Yes. There's a thief on the right, and there's a thief on the left. One thief was upset and blaming him for not giving him a break. But the other thief on the other side said, I just had a light bulb turn off in my mind. I didn't understand what was different from your cross than my cross. But while I'm on this cross now, I've noticed that your cross is different from my cross. Will you tell somebody all crosses are not the same? He said, I notice your cross is in the middle and our crosses on the outside. But you're right here. You're the man in the middle. Will y'all have me preach? Just say he's the man in the middle. He didn't know he was even hanging there prophetically. For Paul said there is one middleman. There's only one mediator between God and man. It's the man, Christ Jesus. And Paul said in the form of a man, fashioned as a man. He had manly feet, but now there's a nail in there. Oh Lord, why don't y'all say amen? He got manly hands, but they can't even come down so he could lift them up. He's got manly wounds. He's got manly shame. He's got manly bones. And he's bleeding manly blood. But I'm glad there was something different about the man in the middle. And I have a witness say nobody like Jesus. And the dying thief said, I just had a light turn on. Your cross is not like my cross. And your body is not like my body. And your pain is not like my pain. And your blood is not like my blood, and your holler is not like my holler, and your excruciating demeanor is not like mine. You somebody different on another kind of cross. He said, I know that we've done wrong, but you're on the cross. You never robbed anybody. You're on the cross. You never slit another man's throat. You're on the cross. You never robbed another man's house. You're on the cross. You never burned another's barn. You're on the cross. You never ravished another man's wife. You're on the cross. You never molested a child. You're on the cross. You never spoke a dirty word. You're on the cross. You never had a filthy thought. You're on the cross. You never held a grudge. You're on the cross. You never failed to forgive. You're on the cross. You never stopped praying. You never stopped loving. You never stopped caring. You never stopped healing. And when you come into your kingdom, Lord, Lord, remember me. Say it. Say it. Finally, somebody see the cross. Hey, ushers. Hey, to the gentry. Hey, to the Brazil. Hey, ushers. You got to keep on ushering. Hey, deacons. Hey, Brother Somerville. Hey, all you deacons. Hey, CFO, wave your hands to Ruthie. All y'all that handle the church's money. Keep on